Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We are back with another match preview. I think this is the third one this week. This time we're going to take our sights towards the weekend's game at Brentford. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one, and this week I am joined by Daryl and Harry. Harry, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, thank you very much, especially after the win against West Ham. I was at home in the living room, but I still feel like I was at the match because my throat this morning was on fire. But it's going well. It's going well.
Nice. And Daryl, I understand you've just gotten back from the big smoke. How was London? How was the game? And how was Shell? Because I believe you brought Shell in and went to the game with her.
Yeah, Shell's doing pretty well. She's settling into the new place, just making sure everything's fine there. And hopefully we'll see her very soon. We'll send our love and best wishes to her as well. If you're listening, Shell, we're all looking out for you. But yeah, London itself, it's great. Got treated to a nice... Shell took us to a wing place in Kilburn, which was quite nice. I didn't have wings because I'm not a fan of handling wings, but I had a burger and it was amazing. And then obviously getting
over to the game.
Burger. I was going to say, but not as bad as
with a knife and fork.
And then we ended up going to the game. I met my mate and his mum, who were West Ham season ticket holders, on the way over, and we had a few drinks and that before the game, and they were worried. They were shitting themselves, and rightly so.
Rightly so. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect a 5-1. I think it was 2-1 I predicted in the last preview. And I mean, I was worried at halftime, thinking I've blown it. Yeah, it's going. It's going to be way more. But yeah, fantastic result, fantastic performance. They did well because obviously the foot came off the gas at 2-0, and I think it was a break in play, and Eddie read in the right act, didn't he? And then obviously we conceded that goal. And I think he must have read them at an even worse right act at half time because they came straight out, and I didn't even see the third goal because I was still drinking my pint. So it was. I did have to wait till we got back to see that, but no, fantastic performance and all around great. Yeah, so I'm in top form. The energy and momentum from last night has seen me through today.
It seems like we've had a lot of energy from the weekend and then more energy from last night. We're all buzzing. We're all smiling. Let's hope that this game on Saturday doesn't dampen that momentum and we still go with it. Like I said, we are going to look towards the Brentford game, but before we do that, it wouldn't be a match preview if I didn't tell you about today's sponsor. It's the same as every week. The Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. They are the go-to site for high-quality and unofficial Newcastle pin badges of players, legends, and retro kits. Their website is magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. I think Ian and Joe have both received their little
yes, they have, didn't they?
Tops.
Yes,
and they look absolutely class. So if you want one of them, they look really good. A lot cheaper than buying a real one as well. For looking on Vinted and looking on all the other sites. Anyways, we'll move on to this preview. It's a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff, which means it's not on any TV in the UK, unfortunately. I do get it through via Play, which is what we have over here with old Ronald de Boer. And if you were wondering why he was with Sven Botman the other day when he was getting interviewed, it's because de Boer was interviewing Sven Botman for the Dutch TV, and that's why it was on there. So little bit of trivia for you there. Anyway, back to Brentford. They're currently, Daryl, sitting in 9th, 10 wins, 13 draws, and only 6 losses this season. That's quite a good go. They're on a +8 goal difference with 43 points. They have only won 1 in the last 5, but that does also mean there's been 2 draws. They had defeats to Man U and Everton. Given all of that, I ask you the same thing every week, Daryl. I'm going to ask you it again. What are your confidence levels going into this one?
Well, without sounding like another fraud again here, like, you cannot not be high on confidence after the last 4 games. 12 points from 12 from the last 4 is just an amazing run of form. And it's this sort of reminds me of the form that we were sort of showing going into the home game. So we were scoring goals and we were really taking it to teams. And, we've just had a 5-1 there yesterday at the time of recording against West Ham. and we beat them 5-1 at home. So you start to wonder, and I honestly don't think this will happen, but you start to wonder if we'll be able to repeat that sort of performance on Saturday. Out of the games that were coming up, I thought this one would be the trickiest, and I based that solely on the game that we had down there last season, which I know we did win 2-0, and it was a fantastic performance. I was there, and I'm gutted I'm not there on Saturday. But we were quite lucky, they were down to 10 men for that 2-0, and before that red card came in, they were really posing a threat to us. And I know we were a different team then to what we are now. But, they've turned Man United over there 4-0 this season. They've had some really good games at home. And, they've done it away from home. I know they've only, they're way behind us now, but, they're still seen as a contender for a European place. And it's just, they're a threat. And obviously, we've got Ivan Toney playing up front for them.
Absolutely.
Who likes to be a bit of a man on the mission against us, and he'll always have a point to prove. But yeah, it's going to be. This is the one I thought would be tough, and I think it will be. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this and the Villa game are probably the tougher of the 5 games in this weird little sandwich we've got with Man U and Spurs as the bread, if you want to think of it that way. Harry, Brentford like to play the long ball. They do attempt a lot of crosses and a few through balls as well. Tend to go down the left-hand side of attack, and they also like to play with width. They seem to play a lot like how we like to play. Do you think that will suit us, or do you think that's one of those where we're going to have to maybe adapt our tactics a little bit to maybe try and counteract what they're doing on the pitch?
It's an interesting one, saying the attack down the left, because if they watch the West Ham game, I imagine they'll go down the right. Dan Burn got done a lot of times on that side, and by all means, I imagine they'll be able to get plenty of crosses in from that side. If you look at the left-hand side, though, when you say changing tactics and things, maybe Trippier might not be able to be as progressive as he has been in the past few games, which he might struggle with a little bit. Yes, we all know he's the best right back in the league, of course. But I do think he is going to have to sit back a little bit. I mean, Brentford are a side where I don't really think much of them. Like, when I'm just thinking about the Premier League, I don't really think about Brentford, but they're just slowly creeping their way up. Brentford, I mean, if you said 2 years ago, being in this position in the league is incredible. Same goes for teams like Brighton. If we were to have
Fulham as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then Aston Villa getting the way up there as well. So I think if we had a big dip in form, which touchwood will not happen, Brentford are there. Like, I mean, they can slowly work their way up if they had a run of form like us. But in terms of the tactics, I think it'll have to be changed slightly, but not too much. I think they all know exactly what the job is. And when you see Eddie Howe bringing on Manquillo and all these players, yes, he had the freedom to do it because of the goal difference in that game. But he still wouldn't bring on those players if he didn't think they could play the way he wanted them to, if they could play in like the system that we want. So I think we'll probably just see the same Newcastle side as we've seen throughout the whole year, to be honest. And hopefully it's Newcastle scene that we've seen over the last 4 games, as Daryl was saying.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I do just have to say, before we go any further, I don't claim to be an expert in Brentford. I'm just going off what the Who Scored website is telling me when I come about how they like to play and their strengths and weaknesses. So any Brentford fans listening, if I've got this wrong, it's not my fault. It's whoscored.com's fault, but we will continue. Daryl, Brentford's strengths, according to whoscored.com, are aerial duels, finishing chances, counter-attacks, set pieces, and also creating chances. You'd like to think maybe the aerial duels would be one that wouldn't be so strong against us, given our height in general, pretty decent defence. But creating and finishing chances, that's something that we're going to have to try and null out from Brentford, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting. I don't know if it'll tell you, Scott, but when you say aerial duels, is that aerial duels as a whole, or is it broken down into attacking and defence? Because for me, it would probably be the defensive side of it. It would be where they get the most success. I mean, we know Ivan Toney can hold it up, and he's the focal point of their front three. But for me, I think that would probably be like swayed towards the defensive side. I think they do have pace in attack, and it is going to be something that we need to be aware of. And Ivan Toney is a pretty lethal finisher, And even the two lads that play on the wing can do it as well. You know, and Burmo, for example, has got quite a few goals this season, and he's in my fantasy team at present. And that doesn't mean I want him to do a job on Saturday. I'd rather Kieran Trippier kept his clean sheet. Thank you very much. But yeah, I mean the lads at the back are doing really well. I think when we get on to who's available and whatnot a little bit later, I think there will be a change in the back four. But in terms of Botman and Shea, I think it should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's to answer your question, Daryl. I'm assuming it's an attack because if we look at their weaknesses, Harry, it says keeping possession, which could probably suit us really down the ground. Defending against wing attacks, which would lead me to believe that they're not winning aerial battles in the box. Defending against long shots, through balls, and the one that really got me, and I think as well we could really maybe hurt them, is defending against skillful players. We have a fair few skillful players on our side at the moment, likes of Bruno, St. Maximin, Alexander Isak, Joel Willock. I feel like that could be a weakness that we could look to exploit. But given that list that I've just rattled off there of their weaknesses, and again, fullscore.com, not my full opinion of knowledge of Brentford. What are your thoughts on how we can hurt them as opposed to what they can do to us?
Probably exactly what you've just said, to be honest. I think the fact of keeping possession, we are such a high pressing team and repress as a team. There's no real gaps left. The midfield, no matter who's been in it this season, I've had no complaints. So strong at three where they can all play each other's roles if needs be. Yes, some are better in the different positions, but they can all cover for each other. So yes, I'd say press high, and Maxi I'd love to see him get a goal. And so fingers crossed if he knows that, if he goes on whoscored.com, whatever it's called, and he goes, oh, skillful players, get himself in there, and just take them on. I think there was a few times against West Ham where I was watching Maxi, I was just thinking, just take them on. And he would, but then there was times he's almost too careful. I think he knows some of the criticism towards him. That's without a doubt. Some of his posts recently have kind of given nod to the people that kind of give him like
the naysayers.
Yeah, exactly that. In the stick online. And look, to be honest, I'm kind of like that against Man United. I want him to bomb forward, but I know that he's not that type of player. He wants the ball at his feet to do something, and that could work really well against Brentford if he does that. And like you said, you said Isak as well. Even Elliot Anderson, I think. Eddie Howe may have to have a look at this squad. I know we will get on what the squad predictions will be, or maybe who want to start, but he is going to have to look at maybe changing up a little bit just to avoid any injuries. Because yes, I'd say we're one of the most physical sides in the league. I think when you listen to the pundits, when you listen on the radio, everyone says how amazing our fitness is within the team. But that doesn't stop you getting injured. That doesn't stop you getting a strain. Things like that. So he is going to have a look at it, and maybe we'll see a changing team that'll exploit those weaknesses that you've just said. Because I'm sure Eddie Howe knows a lot more about Brentford's weaknesses than the website. But
exactly,
we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I don't think St. Maximin needs to go on the website. I'm pretty sure they've got a team of scouts in the club that'll tell them all that information, hand them a cheat sheet. Daryl, we'll talk about some of the players of Brentford. I'll start with the injuries. Got Lewis Potter out, Aja, Onyeka. Do you know this is my autocorrect? Just put an A on the end of that. That's why. And is it Janet or Jane? They're all out, but they've. Again, it's changed it to Janet.
Janet.
Apple autocorrect. Janet's out. I should probably the T lady. But there are some players who can still hurt us. You've mentioned Christ, I'm having a bad time here. Muembo. But they've also got Burmo. See, I can only read websites. I cannot read names. You've got Ivan Toney. You've got Jensen. And you've also got Wissa. They're their current top scorers. Obviously, Ivan Toney by far is leading, but I think the other three there have got 5 goals each. So they seem to be able to score from all over. And I think, looking at their, +8 goal difference, there's threats from all over the park. So is there anyone there that, would we want to keep an eye on? Obviously, we've already talked about Ivan Toney, but is there anybody else on the side that you want to, maybe highlight as a threat?
Yeah, well, I mentioned him earlier, and it's in Burmo. He is a danger from that wing, and he was the one that got sent off last season down there. And, again, he had a good first season in the Premier League last season as well. And Wissa, again, is very much like in Burmo. You know what it is with Brentford? They're really balanced. They're well balanced. So you've got very similar players with strengths on either wing to play on that side of the pitch. That model, we talked about it earlier, that model, it pays dividends as to where they are in the league at the minute. And the little fact that the director of football is a Newcastle fan as well. So, but
maybe we'll win then.
You never know.
We'll turn attention to Newcastle, Harry. Obviously, on the injury list, we've still got Emil Kraft and we've still got Almiron. And I don't think from Eddie Howe's presser today, this is Thursday when we're recording this, by the way, there was any additional names to that list. Obviously, Joe Willock was left out of the side against West Ham, and Eddie Howe said in the pre-match interview that it was because he was feeling his hamstring. Does Joe Willock come straight back into that squad for you, or do you keep it as is in the middle?
Keep it as it is. Joe Linton has no reason to be dropped. Yes, he scored a brace. I do think his second goal was fantastic, but then West Ham turned off for his first, but it was still brilliant for him to be there. Joe Willock's a slightly different player. Yes, I know they do a lot of swapping on the left-hand side, but Joe Willock likes to push down the left-hand side a lot more. I feel like Joe Linton's a lot more direct, and I feel like that could hurt Brentford. In terms of kind of the team, going back to what I said, I think we might see a few changes. I think no matter what Eddie Howe says, I don't really believe him, to be honest with you. I mean, he doesn't give too much away at all. I love the bloke, but he'll tell lots of little white lies. I mean, a lot of people read into that Bruno Eddie Howe chat last night when they zoomed in on them on the TV, and Bruno was kind of like pulling a face, and Eddie Howe was asking if he was all right. So maybe he felt a knock. I doubt he'll be dropped. If it's anything serious where he could kind of make it worse, then I imagine he will be. But no, I think Joe Linton, you keep Joe Linton. Joe Willock has also done fantastic recently. This is where it's going to get hard for us now. I think Eddie Howe has done so well this season at keeping them all going because they're all pressing for the same thing. But I think as soon as we start getting, maybe if we do get in the Champions League, if we do get Europa League, that's when you're going to start to have maybe some upset within the camp, just because people will want to play in those games. People will want to say, "Oh, I've played in that in the first Champions League game in so long for Newcastle United." So at the minute, it's fine. Whoever you play, I would still like to see Joe Linton, but Joe Willock stay on the bench as well, no matter which way it goes. But I'd rather see Joe Linton just to keep his confidence up after obviously having the suspension.
Yeah, I mean, his confidence will be sky high with the 2 goals that he scored in midweek. For me, we've just been talking about this on Extra Time that we were just live with before this recording. I think we might look to rest Sean Longstaff because he's been playing a lot of games and he does nothing but run, right? And he obviously is an engine, but there's nothing prepares you for European football for playing 3 games. And like you said, the potential upset then this week in the football. And Eddie Howe can use this to kind of, maybe embed the players, be like, look, you're not going to play every single game because I need you for other games. So I'm of the opinion, and this is just my opinion, that we might look to drop Sean Longstaff, move Bruno into the middle, and then play Joe Linton and Willock, who can exploit that more of a, keeping the possession, long shots, that sort of stuff, more than Longstaff, who don't get us wrong, is a great player, box to box, but I just think maybe he could do with a little bit of a rest. Same goes for Dan Burn. I mean, we saw last night Dan Burn probably got the best of from what's he called, Bowen. A few times yesterday, he was getting the better. The rub of the green wasn't going his way. I'd like to see Matty Targett maybe come in and see what he can do, especially if they concentrate more on the left, like like it supposedly is. That might give Matty Targett a bit of space to bed in a bit more into the team and come back and get back to fitness. Daryl, any changes that you would do in the team? We'll leave the strikers out of it in a minute. I want to talk about that in just a second. But midfield back, is there anything else that you would look to change?
I agree with you. I think Matty Targett may be one to come in just to give Dan Burn a bit of a rest, and I think the thing with the selection for midfield as well is, I think I would keep Joe Linton in there simply because he came on as a sub against Man U, and then he's got that full 90 minutes under his belt on Wednesday against West Ham. So I think he'll still have plenty in the tank for another game at Brentford. The selection of Longstaff is an interesting one. I think I would tend to agree that if you were going to rest him, you would rest him now. In terms of who replaces him, I think if Willock's still feeling those hamstrings from Man United, then I wouldn't be surprised if you put Elliot Anderson in there,
Yeah.
Because I think Elliot can match Sean's pressing compared to Willock. Now, I know Willock does fit into the system, he does do it, but I just think Anderson might have a bit more in the tank. But other than that, I think it's a pretty consistent team selection, isn't it? And then we'll get onto the forwards.
Yeah, we'll move on to the forwards now. Obviously, both of them are scoring for fun at the minute, so we'll see what happens here. But obviously, Callum Wilson's come back. He looks sharp. He looks fit. He got 2 goals yesterday. Yeah, he got 2 goals yesterday, right? Yeah, I didn't make that up. But you've got Isak, who's hitting them in for fun, and also has a more of an all-round game when it comes to that being that number 10 role almost, even though he's a lone striker. Harry, what do you do? Do you keep Wilson? Do you bring back Isak? What is this? What is this for Newcastle, first of all, because we've never really been here before, and what do you do about it?
I think Wilson starts. I think
I agree.
He's our better striker. I think he is our better. Like you said, his all-round play is above Wilson. But I feel like Wilson against West Ham yesterday. Yes, it was West Ham. Yes, it's who he scores his most goals against. But he looked to be at his best again. I criticise Wilson loads for just being a body up front and for not kind of being that shithouse that he is, I suppose. No shoves, there was nothing. But then against West Ham, he was backing up into players and asking them to feet and moving it fast. And I think in the bigger picture, I'd rather Isak be starting against Aston Villa and Tottenham rather than Brentford. Because I see them as being 2 tough games as well. So I'd say Wilson starts. But then I also do think, I'm sure you'll touch on this with Daryl or you'll talk about it, but I think we might see a change on the right-hand side as well of the pitch, which I'm all for. I love Murphy, but I think we need to stop bedding in Gordon. I'm just going to say I'm going to ruin someone else's thunder because I imagine you to get onto it. But I think we're starting to. I think yes, he started against Man City, but I'd like to see him start against kind of a team where there's more chance. He's got more time on the ball and he can show himself. Because against Man United, he looked amazing. Especially, I remember what sticks with me is him running down the wing and Fernandes kind of missing the ball. It's easy. It's so easy for a Premier League footballer to go down there, and he didn't. And then he played a fantastic ball across the box. Unfortunately, Isak wasn't there, even with his massive legs. But I think Wilson starts. Isak, yes, you can bring on later on if needs be. But Wilson wants, from what he talks about, it's clear he wants to be here for a while. He wants to be starting. And that's what a striker wants to do, is score goals. And he scored 2 yesterday, so why drop him? Why drop him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to talk about the wing situation, not the wings that Daryl didn't eat when he was in London. the wingers on the pitch. Obviously, I think we're all in agreement that Alan St-Maximin in this current form is undroppable. And I think I said this in the reaction that we recorded for the West Ham game. The reason that he's been coming off both against Man U and against West Ham at around the 65, 70-minute mark is to preserve him for these games, because Eddie Howe wants him for as long as he can. He doesn't want to maybe gas him out for a full 90 if he's not quite ready yet.
I'd like to say as well, though. I'd like to say as well, I think it probably helps out Dan Burn slightly. I just like quickly to turn Dan Burn, because he's been fantastic for us, but it's becoming more obvious now with our style of play. And I'll keep it short, where we're pressing from both sides now, and Burn on the halfway line looks so uncomfortable. And he ran out of play maybe twice yesterday when he was on the ball, but that's because Maxi kind of just sits and waits and expects kind of it to come to him almost. And that's not a criticism of Maxi, that's just his game. But I think when you bring off Maxi, Burn can kind of go, thank God that's over, because he's constantly chasing his tail all the time. So it might be to help him out as well, which is also another reason why we could possibly see Matty Targett start. Sorry to take it away, but I just thought that.
No worries. Well, the other side, obviously, you mentioned about Jacob Murphy, Daryl. I said in the reaction that I feel like we're getting the upper limits of what Jacob Murphy is capable of. I think he's playing to that level, and I don't know if there's another gear for him to get up to. Where I think with Anthony Gordon, he's at that level and he can progress and move on. And also, if you look at what I said earlier about them liking to attack down the left-hand side, I think Anthony Gordon gives you a bit more defensive option than Jacob Murphy. We've seen it in the past when Steve Bruce used to play him at right back. He doesn't like to put a foot in. What are your thoughts on that? Would you look to start Gordon? Would you want to give him a chance against Brentford?
It's funny, because you mentioned Jacob Murphy. Like, it's almost as if he's reached a ceiling, and it's whether or not he can punch his way through it to reach that next level. I think this is another thing that I've been thinking about a couple of days now. I think Jacob Murphy's been running on the momentum and the buzz of the energy from Sunday. Like last night, he was just a live wire, and his high press led to that third goal. And I think he's just like one of us. He's just one of us, and he's just living off the buzz. And whether or not, if he's like us now, then I think you'll have plenty of buzz in the tank on Saturday as well. So it wouldn't surprise us if he did start. Eddie does like to try and keep a consistent team where he can. But I agree with you about Gordon as well. He does provide more defensively. There was a move, and I cannot remember if it led to a goal or not, but there was a move that he started because he took the ball off Bowen on the wing, and with a sliding tackle, and I cannot for the life of us remember off the top of my head. Do you think it was for the Isaac goal?
That was Murphy's chance.
When
Trippier played it long, Joelinton backheeled it to St. Maximin, and then
that went in.
What a goal that would have been. Anyway,
but so he does offer that defensive work as well. So again, I think this could be the game where Eddie really looks to play it smart with his substitutions. So you might see some of the lads get about an hour, and then he'll just make these changes. And we are blessed now that we have a bit of strength in depth with all the players that are now available to us. And, we're missing our top goal scorer, yet we're not really worried about it. With Miggy not being available because Gordon's fit and everybody else is fit. And I think this could be a game that's decided on substitutions. I think the one for me would be like if we start Wilson, and you mentioned aerial duels being a strength, then we'll bring on Isaac, and then we'll just start playing it through them and putting the ball over the top where they can't try and duel for it. And then you'll just have the pace to come in behind, and we'll just start battering them. But we'll have battered them by that point, don't we?
Well, speaking of battering them, let's come to our predictions. Daryl, I'll stick with you, mate. What's your predictions for this one?
Do you know what it is? I'm playing safe. I'm going 2-1 again to Newcastle. Nice and easy.
Again. Nice and easy. Come on. Harry, your predictions?
I think 3-0. I think against West Ham, I'd like to say the goals weren't fluky, but they were made by West Ham's mistakes. I'd say 4 of them really were made by West Ham's mistakes.
But could you argue there that the mistakes were because of the way we were pressing them?
Yeah,
especially the goal on half time with Murphy pressing the player. That was us who made the mistake.
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point.
Sorry, it's like is it a forced error or an unforced error? And I think for most of them, we forced the error out of them, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we did, but they were still made from. I just think.
Oh yeah.
But I also think we're missing our shooting boots. I think we've all known that for quite a while. We've been missing that kind of killer instinct to just put it in the back of the net. Famous John Anderson words, just put it in the net. And it is right. Like there's a few times, I was just like hit it, and it didn't come. But I think we now know that 5 could help us massively, just mentally to think, we can score. Like just hit it and see what happens, because we've got players that can hit it from all around the park. So I'll say 3-0, and I think the defence will be solid as always. Absolutely.
It's funny that I mean, we have scored 7 goals in the last 2 games, so I think that really will put their mind to rest about the finish. And I don't, I'm not saying that that's going to go, but I think for any player that was maybe starting to get a bit of doubt, and you could see it maybe in some of the games, that should be long gone now for any of our players, because, like I say, we've scored 7 and 2, and not against like a weaker opponent. I mean, Man U, obviously we know are no slouches, and West Ham, I mean, mistakes aside, they're a good team. They're just not performing. For me, I can't not see Ivan Toney scoring. I think he's going to score at least one. I think it'll be quite an open end-to-end game. I think we both like to play counter-attacking, wide football. And I think I'm going to go for a 3-2 victory. I think it's going to be very, very touch and go. It's going to be horrible to watch, but I think 3-2 will. I think that's a safe score. I think Toney might get a brace, and I'm saying this as I've just sold him in fantasy football for Haaland, but I think Toney might get a brace. And I'm not going to say who we're going to score, because, like I said before, the last time I did that, Callum Wilson got injured. So let's not talk about who will score in that 3-2. But yeah, I think 3-2, and I think it'll be 2-2 at half time, and then I think it'll be a really end-to-end, awesome if you don't care who wins game, but for us it's going to be awful. And then I think we'll nick it around the 75-minute mark. Just saying. And by the way, none of that was on the web. None of that was on the website, by the way. I'm making all this up as I go along for when that prediction. So yeah, I think unless anybody has anything else to add, we can wrap this one up.
Yeah, I think we're
good.
good.
I'm going to try give a tip to Ivan Toney. To be honest, Ivan Toney. Try give him a little betting tip and just say Callum Wilson to score 2, just so one Wilson to score. So you never know, that might work in our favour.
It might do. Do gamble responsibly, Ivan Toney, if you are going to do it anymore. But I'm pretty sure you've had all your accounts closed by now. Anyways, we will wrap this one up. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for taking the time to listen. If you're listening on the audio, thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Harry. This has been the match preview for the Brentford game at the weekend on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. If you do like this sort of content, please scroll down from this video and hit the little thumbs up. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. That helps us as well. While you're there, if you want to subscribe, hit the big red subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new videos go live on the channel, you can hit the little notification bell and you'll get a little pop-up on your phone or on your iPad or on whatever it is you watch YouTube on when we post new content. If you're listening on audio, just give us a 5-star rating. That's all we ask. It helps us climb those charts. If you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It is $2.99 a month, and that gets you early access to the pre-recorded videos as well as access to the Telegram group. But yeah, we'll move into this Brentford game. 2 days rest or 2 days training. I don't know how Eddie Howe's doing it. I know we're staying down in London, so we'll see what happens. But we will go into that brimming with confidence, full of goals, full of running. Hopefully the gas doesn't run out of the tank too soon, and we can see another win and make it 5-5. And yeah, let's look forward to this game. How are the lads?
Champions League, come on.
Champions League. Oh, you've jinxed it there, Daryl. See you, everybody.
Ta-da.
Bye-bye.